In this video, I will find the best NFL game all season. There are 285 games to analyze, and we are going to analyze which one was the best game all year. Usually, we like overtime, we like shootouts because we like high offensive scoring games. So obviously don't have time to look at 285 games. That video would take 5 hours and bring us to 11 o'clock at night. Don't have time for that. Instead, I'm going to impose two conditions. Number one, we have to have both teams score at least 25 points, or number two, go into OT. Either one of those things will be required for anything to be considered. And we have a game right here. The Dolphins beating the Chargers 36-34. But there are some things that I want to look out for. Look at the scoring summary. I want to make sure that no team has too big of a lead, so that's not a huge comeback attempt. And look at it. It's a relative shootout. Again, you have high offense, high defense. The Miami run game makes it not look as impressive, and same for the Chargers passing game. There isn't a whole lot of punting allowed, not a whole lot of sacks. Look at how the Dolphins can convert on fourth down, the Chargers can't. But the Dolphins had 2 turnovers, but via fumble and interception, which is why the game was so close. Now, as much as I love to see the Giants get stomped on by the Dallas Cowboys, again, if it doesn't meet the criteria, I'm not going to include it. And Bills-Jets, the Jets beat the Bills 22-16, but we did have the Bills jump out to a pretty significant lead. And then we just see the Jets pretty much dominating until the Bills can send the game to OT, and it ends on a punt return in overtime. Of course, you also have this being known for when Aaron Rodgers had a season-ending Achilles tear. And look at this, like the Bills threw 3 interceptions and lost the fumble, but the Jets also threw an interception. Jets could convert on fourth down, Bills never had to. The punting game, I mean, this is just a bit of an ugly game. And Aaron Rodgers was also injured during the game, and it was revealed to be a season-ending injury. Couldn't even complete one drive. This is why I always say that Aaron Rodgers is too old to be playing NFL-level football. Having said that, this Monday night game definitely cannot be the best game. Dolphins-Chargers, though, that does need to be considered. Another game, Vikings-Eagles. 34-28 in favor of the Eagles. But, again, the Eagles jump out to a huge 27-7 lead, and the game looks like it's going to be put away. And then you have this dumb decision where the Eagles really should have won for 2 points here, and they didn't, and it almost mattered because the Eagles were actually forced to punt the ball back to the Vikings. They didn't do the intentional safety strategy that they really should have. So the Vikings had, in theory, actually had enough time to have a Hail Mary. Had it went through, they would have won the game. Again, a close game in which both sides score over 25 points. It's 34-28. I couldn't watch this game because I didn't have Amazon Prime. The one play I could watch was the Vikings getting a touchback, and then obviously the 61-yard field goal by Jake Elliott. Of course, you also have a slow start and whatnot, and I mean, like, it was just a bit of an ugly game, if I'm being honest. Of course, the Vikings losing 4 fumbles throughout the game made it ugly. The Eagles threw an interception. I mean, like, I'm not going to say this is a terrible game, but, I mean, obviously the Vikings had enough time for that Hail Mary to have gone through. Would have been better, even though it would have resulted in the Eagles losing, but that's my opinion on it. Seahawks-Lions, this is in serious contention to be the best game. Seriously. A 37-31 overtime shootout between two hated teams. Lions obviously hate the Seahawks because the Seahawks kicked the Lions out of postseason contention last year. And you look at it, it's a pretty back and forth game. But obviously the Seahawks jumping out to a 31-21 lead in the fourth quarter, but then the Lions make a comeback, and then obviously what happens in overtime happens. I'm not going to be able to look at the thing because it would involve me going into a Wikipedia article. So as a result, I'm not going to be looking at as a result, I'm not going to be looking at what happens in what happens in throughout the game. We'll just be looking at the statistics and making an analysis. Besides, I don't want this video to get too complicated because even with how much I've narrowed things down, like a lot of games are going to be included. Packers Falcons. Oh, Packers, you are 1 point off. This is another overtime thriller. Titans Chargers. 27-24. And again, you have the Chargers getting out to an 11-0 lead, but then the Titans are able to cut it to 14-10, take the lead. Back and forth, fourth quarter. Chargers taking the field goal into overtime, but then the Titans get the job done. 27-24. And again, a lot of punting, which is not exactly what you want to see. A lot of punting. Titans couldn't convert on their fourth down. Chargers actually converted on all three of them. No turnovers. Quite a few sacks, though. I don't think this can really be considered. I think at this point, the two games I've seen so far that I think we can say were some of the best games so far were Seahawks Lions and Chargers Dolphins. We also have this game, Giants Cardinals, and I swear I hated, and I mean hated, this result. Why? Cardinals trail led 20-0 at halftime. And I was like, the Giants are about to get shut out by the Cardinals, or at least lose to the Cardinals because they then scored. But then the Cardinals were able to make it a 28-7 ball game. And I was like, the Cardinals, they've won this game. And I was so pissed off when the Giants came back big time to win it. I mean, like, how do you even do that? They both punted 3 times. Giants threw an interception. Like, did the Cardinals just like punt on all 3 times? I mean, there's nothing obvious besides them continuing to punt. I mean, they didn't have any turnovers. Um, there were no fourth down failed conversions. You could see how the Giants were able to get behind, and like you could see why the Cardinals got ahead. But, like, how can the Giants got 4 consecutive possessions? Must be because those are the only times the Cardinals gave the ball up, and you know. Oh, and the Commanders Broncos 35-33. This actually was a pretty good game. Actually, it wasn't. Broncos led 21-3. Then the Commanders lead 35-24. This is not a back and forth game. This is just a game of which side dominates more. You do have this Hail Mary, though, a 50-yard pass. And it wasn't like he even ran two. It was bobbled a few times and then caught, and then you had the failed 2-point conversion. Look at the yards, though, almost identical. And this is a high-scoring shootout. But the Broncos did suffer 2 turnovers during this game. Even though it was a high-scoring game, the fact that it was like back and forth of who sucks more means I can't say this is my favorite game. Not my favorite game, one of the best games. Oh, and the Broncos next week? Yeah, this is the 70-20 game. Can it be called the best game in the NFL this year? Absolutely not, unless you're a Dolphins fan. This game was the one that exposed the Commanders as frauds for jumping out to a 2-0 start. This is the one where we finally realized that Taylor Swift was, in fact, a Chiefs fan and was dating Travis Kelce. Colts beat the Baltimore Ravens 22-19. And this was a bit of a back and forth ugly game. Bit ugly. Was there a safety? Yep, there was. There was, in fact, a safety. And wait, and how the hell did the Ravens have a safety and then the Colts score a field goal? Like what? I guess the Ravens had to punt the ball and they went 3-and-out, and the Colts had a good drive. I guess, but how do you get a safety which gives you the possession of the ball back? And then they still tie it up, and I'm sure at that point Colts fans thought it was done. Back and forth game. Was low scoring though. 7 punts, and the Ravens lost 2 fumbles. Neither of them could convert on the fourth down they faced. If you like defensive battles, I guess you could say this is a good game. I mean, it was a good defensive game. I'm just saying, like the best games of the year. Really can't say Colts Ravens is that. Panthers Seahawks. Even though it's 27-37, the fact that you have this, and again, just how much of a lead the Seahawks got, 3 possessions. Yeah, it might have been a high offensive game, but like, can you really say that this is the best game? Like, can you really say that? It was a 2 possession game. Absolutely not. Now, Rams Colts. The Rams had a 23-0 lead, and they almost blew it by the game going into overtime. But again, these giant comebacks, like you cannot say that these giant comebacks are like the best games because you just see one side dominate. I mean, it can be a cool story. I'm just saying that like comebacks are good games. Don't get me wrong. I definitely love to see a comeback. I'm just saying that like a comeback, they aren't the greatest games just because. I mean, like even though they are, um, what was I gonna say? Like even though comebacks are great games to watch a team like come all the way back from being down big time. And you'll see it again in Bears Broncos, and the Bears held a 20-7 lead that they wound up blowing. It's just that I feel as though like the best games are the ones that can be offensive shootouts usually. And now when a team takes a big lead and they don't, it's just like the game is shifting over in someone else's favor, but it begins to become arguably predictable that a comeback is about to happen. It begins to become arguably predictable. Like, I don't know. Commanders Eagles. This was actually a pretty good game. I was scared as an Eagles fan looking at the live score updates. The Commanders jump out to a 17-7 lead. Then the Eagles take the lead back, and then the Commanders tie the game with a touchdown. But thankfully, the Eagles do win in overtime. And I mean, just like look at this. Look at this. Oh my God. All right. On our quest for the best games, which again, right now it's Dolphins Chargers, Seahawks Lions are the two that I'm most seriously considering. And not really seeing anything that meets my criteria in week 5. Week 6, I mean, I'm not complaining because this means I have to analyze less stuff. But week 6, also a bit disappointing. Also, Jets fans, I swear to God, you got so bailed out by Nick Sirianni in that game. Week 7, and again, not that much else. Ooh! Browns Colts. Browns Colts. Oh my God. First of all, I want to say this. The Colts should have went for 2 in that spot. I know that yes, being up 6 isn't that much different than being up 5. But when you're up 4 after a touchdown, you want to do what the Jets did and go for 2 just in case the Browns miss on their extra point time, which is unlikely, but you want to do it just in case. So that's what you want to do. That's a strategy, and because of that, all the Browns had to do was just kneel out the 2-point conversion try with 15 seconds left, and the Colts pretty much had 0 time to come back. I mean, it's gonna be very hard to even get to field goal range in that time. You need to complete all your passes and whatnot, and it just gets difficult. And again, looking at the team stats, fair amount of punting, fair amount of turnovers. Colts had 4 turnovers, and the Browns threw 2 picks. The Browns also had a ton of rundowns. I'm going to say this. Browns Colts was a high offensive shootout. It truly was. It was such a shootout, I'm willing to put it in consideration. But it probably wasn't my favorite game. Bills, Patriots. Bills, how'd you lose? And yeah, this game was just an absolute crap show. Not going to be considered. There were a few punts, though. Somehow the Bills lost a turnover battle. Now, you have this overtime game between Jets Giants. And let me tell you this. This is one of the worst games ever. Look at the Giants' passing yards. -9 passing yards. And yet they almost won the game. Because if they had made this field goal, the Jets would have had to have marched down the field. I mean, it's just like, holy shit. 24 combined punts. 24 combined punts. Like, how? Literally, how? That was one of the worst NFL games all season. Even though on paper it looked like a good game. Okay, anything else? Nope. Vikings Falcons. Let's take a look at this one. All right. Seems good at first. But there were a lot of turnovers. Listen, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Vikings Falcons. I'm just saying that, like, personally, I don't know if this can go down as one of the great NFL games of the season. But Bucks Texans absolutely can. Look at this. Look at this. The Buccaneers get a touchdown, 46 seconds left, and CJ Stroud can march down the field and score the game-winning touchdown. Look at this. Look at that. And the Buccaneers even had a 17-7 lead, so there was that, like, lead blown aspect of the game. In fact, they were also up 20-10. And then the Texans came all the way back. This is one of the best games of the NFL. Like, just the fact that the Texans had were down 4 points, so out of field goal range with 46 seconds left, and they managed to win. Impressive. Texans Browns. There were actually a lot of good games in Week 10. A lot of games that came down to game-winning field goals, and this was one of them. After the Bengals came roaring back, they were down 20-7, which likely means there was a lot of defense involved. Yeah. A lot of picks, a lot of fumbles, failed fourth down conversions. It was a bit of an ugly game. I'll say that. And my computer gave out. Do I even want to do this anymore? Oh, by the way, as far as the other games, you had Falcons, Cardinals coming into a game-winning field goal, Commanders, Seahawks, Broncos, Bills, Browns, Ravens, but this is a big comeback game, and Lions, Chargers. And folks, this is, I think, we could say one of the greatest NFL games of all time. This is our winner. It really is. I didn't see the game, but this is our winner.